that's what I would stress is like, you can go on the financial journey and succeed. And that's amazing. That's an amazing thing for someone to like set out to build something, to find success, overcome those dragons and come out the other side a hero of that financial journey. But that's it. It's just the financial journey. It is not that does not translate over. You are magically now very good with women, or good with conflict in relationships, or good with getting, setting boundaries. Those are all completely separate skills. If I go, the ocean is right there. If I go out and learn how to surf, that does not mean I'm going to learn how to play guitar. These are separate journeys that men, I believe all people should go on, but I work with men. So that's predominantly who I speak with. But if you skip the relationship journey, you will end up having to face those consequences through pain or through a significant loss of money and hardship later down the line.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's the Bearded Man podcast with your favorite, the world's favorite bearded man, Bobbbaaaay. Each week with our guest episodes, I try to put the spotlight on an expert who can help us reach our inner potential. He's the founder of Knowledge for Men, a company empowering men to live better. He's a 3-time Amazon best-selling author for books, The Dating Playbook for Men, The Breakup Manual for Men, and The Porn Pandemic. He's the host of the Knowledge for Men podcast, where he's interviewed successful leaders to help share their lessons on health, wealth, relationships, and personal growth. Some of the past guests include Jordan Belfort, Mark Manson, my man Lewis Howes, and many, many more. Today on the podcast, Andrew Ferebee.
Wow.
How we doing, baby?
Doing good. It's good to be here. Great intro. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Who is this guy? Let's go.
This is you, bro. You've had quite the transition in about 8 years, man. Coming from, I think you had $14 in your bank account when you kind of started on this journey of sharing your voice and your knowledge and your learnings to where you're at today, man. It's props to you, man. You're leading by example for something that I hope to build within my own career someday.
Yeah, man, $15. I went to the bank, tried to pull out a 20, and it said insufficient funds. And that was when I knew I had to make a choice. I had to decide if I was really for real, or if I was just kind of playing around. Like, oh, is this like a hobby, or is this going to be a career? Is this going to be something that I'm really going to do, and I'm prepared to go all into this? And that was the decision that I was faced with. That was probably back in 2014. I quit my job in 13, and then it probably just took several months before I became broke and had to really make that decision. Obviously, I decided to push forward, max out credit cards, and go all in. and this was during a time too when it was not as popular to do what I was doing. Totally. It's so common now. Like my brother's a high school teacher, and like kids say you write down what you want to be and stuff, and kids say they want to be a podcaster, they want to be a YouTuber, they want to be a professional video Twitch streamer. Like this is the stuff. This is like a common thing now.
I know. I always tell people if the world that existed today existed when I was in high school, I would have went all in on gaming. I was a big video game player, Dude, and I just ditched it because I was like, "There's no career in this. Like, what am I going to do?
What am I doing?" I was playing Call of Duty, and people. I would get
Halo
banned.
3. I
would get banned because people thought that I was a hacker, and they'd be like, "Oh, this guy's hacking. He's too good." I was like, "Dang!" Like I was getting blacklisted. This was like in my teens. Like I haven't touched the video game system in a while. I know they're too addicting.
Yeah, you're too busy doing other things now, man. But it's very clear that you took those bold leaps of faith and risks in the beginning that's allowed you to get to where you are today. What I'm really, really, really excited about, and I don't even know if the reference, the reason I came across your book, which I have here today, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching video, The Dating Playbook for Men. I don't know if this book was specifically referenced to your book, but I just finished Dan Bilzerian's book, and he talks about and he put The Dating Playbook for Men. And so then I was like, let me look this up, and I found your book.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I would look at, I should have started that. I should have given you a little heads up before the podcast, because I don't even know if that is directly to your book, but I think it potentially could. So
what does he say about what does he say about
I forget the context of it, but he was acknowledging like books like this that he's believed it could help better men's mindset on dating. Once again, he didn't reference the author. he just referenced the title of the book. And so I immediately go, let me look this up on Amazon.
There's two books called The Dating Playbook for Men. One is called The Dating Playbook, which somebody wrote for women. The subtitle is directed towards women. And then mine is The Dating Playbook for Men. And mine came out earlier. This person's took my title, probably because it's a SEO thing to take the traffic, but they're targeting women. And I haven't done anything. I don't know. It's not important, but that's really interesting. I'm going to have to buy his book and
check out his book and look into it. Cause I think he's referencing your book because the book is very much catered towards men. So that's a little sidebar for you to check into. But that's how I came across the book. Was I was reading his book recently. He spoke highly of what this book could potentially do for you. And this was the book that came across on Amazon. What is speaking to me so much in this book that you clearly have outlined so well is that from a personal standpoint, there was an early part of my career when I was just getting into podcasting, creating, just graduated college. I spent 3.5 years just going all in on myself. Pretty much had a heartbreak, was like, fuck this. I can't control how somebody feels about me. So I'm just going to go all in on myself and I can control what I invest in myself, but I can't control how somebody feels. I've since then, looking back on it, I don't regret it, but I don't suggest people do what I did, which is build a boundary around me and say, I don't got time for women. I don't have time for dating. It wasn't healthy because then you realize you have to pick up where you left off and you realize you didn't, all these years you could have been working on that trauma or that feeling of heartbreak. You now have to learn from it. This show is all about people reaching their inner potential. How do you feel dating helps us as a 360 individual become our ultimate best self? Because I'm now viewing it, and you've very outlined it well in this book, is that it's a piece of you. It's not just this side thing that you don't necessarily need. It can really bring some true value to you.
100%. I think dating will bring out the biggest insecurities in that individual. And that's what prevents him from taking the actions that he wants to take. And so you can take a guy who's successful financially, good looking, who's tall, who has all the attributes that say, hey, this is a high quality guy. But we put him in an environment where he's single, let's say this, and we put him in an environment where there's a very attractive woman to him, and you see physically and emotionally almost like the symptoms of his insecurity come out. He starts stuttering, his body language shrinks, he doesn't know what to say, he starts stumbling his words, he doesn't know how to do simple things in social conversation because this woman has this power over him that he has created in his head. And so I think dating is a playground where you can really understand your weaknesses and your insecurities. It's a place to challenge yourself with social expression. Many people, surprisingly, don't say what they want to say. They hide and they shrink. And what this does is it reduces your value. It reduces your self-esteem and worth. I mean, why would a guy not want to share how he feels or what he thinks? And so a lot of times you have inside of dating, the thoughts, the words, and the actions are out of alignment with the guy. And so when this is occurring, you can sometimes then attract someone who is out of alignment with you because you are acting out of alignment as you are meeting people, because you have a lot of insecurities. There could be past traumas, such as one of the things that you're revealing from a breakup. Dating is and not only dating, but even in your own relationship. Really, I think relationships in general is a place where you can see some of the biggest fears inside of a man, and the fear can be so great that he would rather settle and go with something that is going to be easy, and he would not have to overcome the insecurities, not have to overcome the fears. So because this person he's not challenged, and he knows he's settling, but the fear of being single and having to go out and face these challenges is so much that he would rather settle. And that's a very, very dangerous place to be, especially in today's society, and especially for men.
Having the car, the career, that there's a I think the title of the chapter or subtitle that really caught my attention when I was reading the book is chasing the money is not the answer. And I was like, I had to read that 4 times out loud because I was like, Why is it that society and men think that that is the answer, that having the car, that having the career, that having the money is going to actually give us everything that we've ever asked for? But then when you're trying to talk to a woman, it's just a completely different part of your brain that you realize like you need to work on and put in the effort like you do with every other aspect of your life.
It's a journey. And I won't deny that a guy who is good looking or makes money will have, that is a good thing, but it is definitely not the only thing. And it's not going to trump having a strong, like grounded personality, someone who's living in alignment. Like those things are why you see sometimes a really attractive woman with a guy who is less successful and even less good looking. It's his personality. It's who he is. He has strength. He has masculine energy. There's a lot of things that you can't see behind the scenes and the sub communications to why she's with this man. But like the status, that stuff is valuable, but ultimately, like if we're gonna really have success in our relationships, we really have to have success with ourselves and not use the relationship to cover up or mask some of the things in our lives. So when I say like chasing money is not the answer, I can tell you like just right off the bat that the most attractive women I know are not with the most successful men, even though they have that opportunity. In fact, my own girlfriend today, she was telling me a story of a very, very, I won't say his name, but a very well-known, if I say his name, it'd be like, what? And then he would sue me. But a very, very well-known person online who's very rich, had reached out and had a date with my girlfriend, and she wasn't interested. And they were in a mansion. He was driving like it was like a Rolls or like a Lamborghini. It was one of those cars, and it sounded like an amazing date. But she wanted to leave, and when she wanted to leave, he was so hurt that at that point he even offered her money to stay. He offered her $1,000. He was like almost in a frame of begging. It was this really extreme form of neediness. She didn't explain it that way, but the way that she explained just the frame and the interaction, I read that as, okay, this guy's coming from a position of insecurity, of weakness, of neediness. So she offered him, he offered my girlfriend $1,000, and she was like, what? And then she denied, or at least this is what she tells me. But no, she denied, and there's a huge lesson in that. And then she comes weeks later, she meets me, and I'm not spending any money. I'm not taking her out on a Rolls Royce. I'm by any means not like a guy who's struggling, but I'm not leading with like financial. I'm not leading with money. I'm not leading with any sort of like crazy status. I'm leading with just being authentic. I'm leading with Andrew Ferebee. This is like the tip of the spear is me, and this is what you're going to get. And I'm very confident in my approach with her and how we were dating, and just the amount of aliveness and energy and masculine energy within that relationship. But ultimately, my point there is that I think that story sheds a lot of light. And then even just the people I know, it's like I have a friend who has an amazing. This girl's a 10. This girl is like your blonde 10. And this guy is one of my good friends, and he's struggling financially pretty bad right now. Like he's not doing great at all financially. And I'm not saying like, hey guys, let's all be broke. Not like, we all got to grow. We all got to like, he's striving, he's pursuing, he's waking up early and getting after it. Like he is trying. I want to make that clear. But what he does have is a very fun, alive, engaging personality. He's good. He has gone on the journey. And so that's what I would stress is like, you can go on the financial journey and succeed. And that's amazing. That's an amazing thing for someone to like set out to build something, to find success, overcome those dragons, and come out the other side a hero of that financial journey. But that's it. It's just the financial journey. It is not that does not translate over. You are magically now very good with women, or good with conflict in relationships, or good with getting, setting boundaries. Those are all completely separate skills. If I go, the ocean is right there. If I go out and learn how to surf, that does not mean I'm going to learn how to play guitar. These are separate journeys that I believe all people should go on. but I work with men, so that's predominantly who I speak with. But if you skip the relationship journey, you will end up having to face those consequences through pain or through a significant loss of money and hardship later down the line.
Yeah, I think the perspective of looking at it as a journey makes it so much more not as scary, right? Like you're not supposed to just wake up and know exactly what you're doing. Exactly. You're not going to have success right off the bat. Like I think we all go through seasons of our lives, right? Where when I mentioned earlier, this 3.5 years of like post-graduating college, trying to figure out my career, that was a season of me actually going more internal. Although there was like a little bit of a heartbreak that was also like kind of the inspiration. It was like, I graduated college. I don't know what I want to do with my life. This is the time to figure it out. And so it was that was like my internal journey of figuring out who I am, what is me authentically, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, what do I value, what do I want in somebody else. And so now it's like, then you change chapters and you go on to this next season of like being more open-minded to it, throwing yourself out there, like getting rejected, but then going, fuck it, I'm going to keep going. Like I have to keep putting up more reps, thinking like, you know, you are where you are now, 8 years later. When this whole journey started, you were definitely like, there was like a heartbreak, and you were like trying to figure out like, how do you get back in the game? Like how do you look at the process of going from, you know, starting the journey, which is like extremely hard and can be overwhelming when you're getting rejected, you don't know what you're doing, to then now you have a girlfriend, but you also have had a lot of experience with throwing yourself out there, being confident in your own skin, and being willing to go after the woman that you've been attracted to.
Yeah, there's been many women since this was 8 years ago. So this is the current girlfriend, but there's been a plethora of relationships of
Love it.
Many different women that it has been a very rewarding journey. But within that journey, there's a great amount of growth. But the what you said about like, I like how you look at it as a journey. That's really where we should start, is looking at where you feel that you're lacking or where you want to improve, instead of saying like, I suck at this or I'm not confident at this. What we want to say, because language is really important. When you say something that's like what's in your head, and we created this thing, we created language so that you can communicate and other people can understand you, but you're saying what's in your head, and that's what you're doing. So if you speak very harsh or negatively of yourself, then it becomes very difficult to even make this happen. Or if you really label yourself as someone who's not good with women, or who is unattractive, or who can't have success with women, or who can't have success financially. I mean, this works the same way with, you know, money mindset issues are very big, especially if you grew up in a family that was lower middle class or even, you know, struggling. But we want to look at like, when someone says, hey, I'm not confident at this. When we look at confidence, it just means it means that you have the skills, like a belief in your own skills, a belief in your own ability, right? So if right now surfing, like I believe I can go out and surf because I've been doing this. I have gone on a journey here, and therefore I am confident. But it's not to say that like, hey, like because I can't go out there and surf that, like I'm limited. It's something that anyone can do. And so I like to, what we want to say is like, I need to go on a journey. And that's just the first place we should start. If someone doesn't know how to surf, it means you haven't gone on that surf journey. That's all that means. So when someone says, hey, I'm not good with women, it means you haven't gone on a relationship journey. And if you tried it in the past, you likely didn't have the tools that you needed to succeed, or you had the wrong information and strategies. You're following people who actually don't have the results. They're really just trying to make money. A journey that's going to require going and doing this. If you have like-minded people who are doing this with you, if you have mentorship, if you have good resources and good courses, or good coaching, good mentoring, all these things can help amplify and expedite the journey. But when we coming back to your question, I just wanted to really emphasize the point of like language and looking at anything that you're struggling with as a journey. Like if someone's broke, they haven't really gone on a journey of building wealth or building a skill set that is very valuable. That's all that means. Like if someone's stuck working at, down the street, there's a 7-Eleven. Okay, that guy just hasn't gone on a journey of learning a more valuable skill set. The world is not out against you in any way. The world is actually a great place. You just have to be willing to go on journeys within this place. Anything that you want, you can achieve. And anything that I sat down and was like, I'm going to accept this journey. And I take that very, like, it's almost an emotional experience where I'm going to, because when you're saying that, you're accepting the challenges, you're accepting the pain, you're accepting the suffering, the rejections, like you said, you have to accept that is a part of the journey, but that's what's going to make this worthwhile. That's what's going to make this beautiful. That's where I'm going to find the most growth is my ability to accept this journey and endure what the journey has within it. So that's just so key to view. Now, when we look at like my story here, when I view it as a journey, it's almost like a game. Like you can view this like a movie. You're the hero of your story, and in this game, my goal is to level up. My goal is to grow. My goal is to try new things and sort of push the boundaries of what I think is possible. And when viewed in this way, it reduces the amount of pain that sounds so stressful. There's so much anxiety in that. There's so much work in that. There's so much pain in that. And it becomes something that is like, this is actually fun. Like this whole, like journeys are supposed to be really fun. And when you do come across, if you ever feel that you've, accomplished that journey and you look back, you will realize that the accomplishment of the end of that journey is not that great, but what is great is the journey. It actually was those moments when it was that moment. Like I was devastated when I had $15 in my account and I was faced with like, what do I do? Like now it's this great story. I get to share it later. I told my mom that I'm going to go homeless. She's like, what are you going to do? Because she was kicking me out too. I was living at home. I had graduated college and I had this job, and I was managing a Target, a retail store. And I told her I was going to go homeless. And she says, where are you going to sleep? And I said, I was asleep in the back of my car. And she's like, well, where are you going to shower? And I said, well, I have a gym pass. I'll shower at 24 Hour Fitness. Plus I'll work out twice a day. Boom. And then she's like, well, how are you going to work? And I was like, Starbucks, they have free internet. Like I was ready to go. And granted, not everyone can do that. Like if I had kids and family, it is a different ballgame, but it's just a different path. It's a different journey, but that's my journey. And I viewed this as something that was going to be really fun and exciting. And I believe the way you look at these challenges and circumstances is really important. Otherwise, you probably will give up. Like how the journey is life. Like I want to pursue as many journeys as I possibly can, not all at once, but as like kind of one after the other. Like I've been on many journeys in my life, and that's what makes my life rewarding. And so the lack of life in a man, the lack of his value, if we talk about like a low value man, a high value man, a successful man, an unsuccessful man, is the amount of journeys that this man has endured. And that's what makes a man really interesting. Like women inherently, I'm not saying that this is right. I'm not saying that this is my, I created this, but women's value is predominantly given to them with beauty. And some women, of course, can work and develop themselves 100%. But just universally, men find a lot of value in a woman's beauty, which a lot of is given to her. Of course, she can work out and do all that. But a man's value is he's pretty much, for the most part, almost naked. Like he's born and he has to make something of himself in order for others to deem this man as valuable. Is it fair? Probably not. I didn't create the rules here, but if we understand this, you can understand how two guys who grew up in the same place and who had the same opportunity and had the same level of income as families can end up in completely different places if one man simply pursues more journeys than the other. And that's going to be how a man can become a high value man. You can take a guy that I think a lot of us enjoy is Joe Rogan. What makes Joe Rogan so interesting is like you can't you can't like study how to be Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is interesting because it has so much interesting insight into the world, and not because he's interviewed so many people, but because he himself has been on many journeys himself as a comedian, as a UFC commentator, as a black belt in jiu-jitsu, as like a hunter, as like as obviously the host of his podcast. Like there's so many things that he does in his life, which I view all as these interesting journeys that he has overcome and had success on, that make this guy so compelling and make him so interesting, versus if he had none of that and he was just a guy who was interviewing people, he would have less insight to say, and there would be less there for that guy and for the listeners. But so just, I think, viewing the journey as this is life and this is supposed to be fun. And the more journeys I go on, the more interesting and compelling and the more interesting my life is. Like when someone says they're bored, what they're telling me is I'm not on a journey. When someone says like I'm lost, I'm not sure what to do, I'm not sure where to go, like, okay, that is the journey. The journey is to go on a journey and discover what it is that I would like. Like your default journey is always just discovery if you aren't specifically on one. And that's a really exciting one too. So the journey leads the man to a place of value.
The quote that I can think of as you were describing that, and I think you had Ryan Holiday on the podcast at one point.
Yes. Yeah.
He referred to this in context of creative block, but I think it translates into everything you're talking about. Is he said, my best advice to breaking creative block is to live an interesting life. And I think that goes in hand with creating value of yourself, of like, what do you have to bring to the table? What is your story? What have you been through? How does that change your perspective? How do these lessons change the way you carry yourself? And I think even as you're describing all of this, you know, the perspective change of going on this journey, right? Whether it's dating or anything else you're going through, is how is this happening for me? And not how is this happening to me? To me is the perspective of resistance, where, you know, for me is more of a looking at it as like, this is helping me grow. I'm learning something. I'm going to put this in my tool belt and I'm going to add this, you know, as I'm moving forward with my own life. Quick break from today's episode, then we'll get right back to it. Today's episode is brought to you by the greatest matcha brand in the world, Tenzo. Okay. Listen, at the top of 2021, I started using matcha every single day. And it's been a game changer. It helps keep me sustained energy throughout the day without the coffee crash. I am all about reaching our inner potential, and caffeine is something that I need. What I love about matcha is that it makes me feel good. I don't feel sluggish. I don't have that afternoon crash. It really does keep me feeling like I'm flying at 30,000 feet all damn day long. Head over to tenzo.co, tenzot.co, and use my promo code The Bearded Man, all one word, 25% off every order. Well worth it, okay? 64% of American adults drink coffee every day, and they pay the price with dehydration, jitters, anxiety, and headaches. Switching out of the morning coffee for matcha helps us stay level-headed, focused, and avoids the coffee crash. Tenzo Matcha contains natural caffeine and L-theanine, and it helps you feel re-energized and focused like a Zen monk. I want to feel like a Zen monk, and so do all of you. The product tastes great. You can just add water if you'd like. I personally like using almond milk, and it makes it taste like a latte, and it is fantastic, okay? Each half tablespoon has 36 milligrams of caffeine, and it's just great. It helps me feel great throughout my day. So if it's of interest, head over to tenzot.co. Use my promo code TheBeardedMan, all one word, for 25% off every single order. I do not promote products unless I use them, and I'm using Tenzo twice a day. Not once, but twice a day. Once in the morning, once in the afternoon. And that's what helps me fuel my workouts, podcasts, creating, crushing, everything. Once again, tenzot.co, The Bearded Man, all one word. Check it out. Get some matcha. You're going to enjoy it. Now back to today's episode. Talk to me about this. This really stood out to me, and you're wearing the shirt right now. But most men, including myself, have always looked at as like the bad boy and then the nice guy. But you've done a phenomenal job of introducing this third character of the grounded man. And we're kind of dancing around it as we just discussed, but what steps can men take to become the grounded man?
100%. I think to have context into that, like looking at the nice guy or the beta male, that's one end of the spectrum, and you're basically seeking approval. You're seeking approval, and you are timid. You're hesitant. He's often, I just like to use the word, he's hiding in life. He's not saying his words, his thoughts, his actions are not aligned. I like the word alignment because when you're living in alignment, and that is being grounded, living in alignment to your values is being grounded. This is what the nice guy is not doing, because he is hiding from what he actually wants to say and do in order to be liked, in order to be, in order to get the approval of others. So to understand that helps to understand how, like the power of being grounded, because you are living your authentic life. And it's not only just with like your thoughts, words, and actions, but also in like how you're living. And like you can always filter your, like any action or thought, you could filter it through your values, and that's how you'll have a more grounded action. If I say, hey, I need to drive a Lamborghini to be an attractive male, okay, if I filter that through my values, that doesn't fit my values at all. That would actually be me listening to others, listening to society, listening to the marketing, listening to Instagram and social media, listening to my ego. Whereas my values, like, hey, I just want to be free. I want to do the things that I enjoy. I want to create things with awesome people and help people change their lives. Like, so when I filter that, it's like, hey, that would be a waste of time, and that would be out of alignment with what I want to do. If I say, hey, like, what do I want to do for work? And it's like, hey, I just want to make the most amount of money. Like, what would make me? And that's how I used to think. When I was coming out of college, I was just like, what makes the most amount of money? What can I do? and I obviously didn't even succeed at that, but that's what I was thinking at the time. And these are some of the most miserable people. Of course, you will have financial success, but after a certain point, you've got to stop and ask yourself, like, what do I want to do with my life? And where do I want to go? Like, is this who I am and what I want? Because to live out of alignment is to be in a lot of pain. You can think of it like a chiropractor or like a spine that's out of alignment. It's going to be in pain, and it can be very subtle. It can be very big, but to get back in alignment, there is actual pain getting back in alignment. And, but it's a good pain. Like, it's a pain that you want to endure because it's the way forward, because the next day, the next week, and the future is going to be so much better. You're going to be out of pain because you're in alignment. Your spine is in alignment. You're living in alignment. So I just think, okay, to live in alignment with my values, that would be grounded. If I filter it through that, whatever actions, whatever big decisions I'm going to make, I want to take a step back. And that's the importance of like knowing yourself, knowing what you value, knowing what it is that you want, like your values and vision, living in alignment to that is extremely hard at first. Just like realigning the spine, it's going to be painful at first, but over time it becomes easier and easier. It becomes, well, I call this, like, for my clients, I call it grounded man nirvana, because you're living, it becomes effortless to live in alignment, because the benefits of living in alignment outweigh any consequence. And you're experiencing such positive flow in your life with the decisions you're making, the way that you're showing up in your relationships, the way you're showing up in work, how you spend your time, and also how you don't spend your time. Like, an example of living out of alignment for me at this point would be a lot of things I used to be addicted to that I didn't even know, like such as video games we talked about, such as porn, which was a huge problem for me many years ago. Being addicted to social media and just living on my cell phone, looking at others, scrolling, ogling women, binge watching shows as like a career, like a part-time career, and just like really like watching so much TV. Like, these things are out of alignment with me, versus living in alignment is like creating something really cool for my clients, going on an awesome trip with my girlfriend, organizing a dinner with some of my closest friends, and like creating a really cool conversation around life and the future and relationships and what makes us come alive. Like, those things all feel so good. They feel so right. It feels so good to do that action versus just do what I'm told to do, or like just chase money, or even chase women. I mean, that could be out of alignment. After a certain point, like, I had to not just be in this for like women. Like I had to really start pursuing and transition into like looking for a partner that I can like really build a life with. But I do think the journey is still very important. But yeah, that's just some insight into being grounded. So when you live an ungrounded life, you're typically in a lot of pain. You feel really lost. You're unsure of the future. There's a lot of uncertainty. And you're also attracting people that are inauthentic to you because of what you're putting out in the world. Like you're not being real with yourself. So you're going to attract a lot of people who like this unreal version of you, which is very common in relationships and social friendships. Like if you're with a group of people and you feel like you're alone, you're probably in a situation where you're out of alignment. It's probably not for you. I have a lot of clients who come to me and they want to learn how to be more social and such. And, you know, I first just say like, look, who are you even trying to be social with? Like guys are going out to these clubs and it's like, look, that's not for everyone. Like going to, how about like, I have a client who is extremely introverted and he's trying to go out to these, you know, clubs and bars to meet people. And so what I had him do is like, what are your passions? Like, what are you excited for? What do you want to talk about for hours? What do you do? Look at your YouTube history. What are you watching like endlessly for fun on your own time? What are you searching on Google? And he's really into comedy and he's really into like filmmaking. So like a combination of like comedy films. And so he put together a group on online, and he started attracting people who are interested in making comedy films. And so he's the leader of this group now, and there's like 15 people that he connects with from this group, and he's like more social than he's ever been in his life. And so it wasn't like he was living out of alignment. Like society says like, hey, go here. There's a lot of people here. They're drinking. They're having fun. Why aren't you? And it wasn't working for him. And that's what a lot of people are doing versus like what is authentic and real to you, and then being a leader and being courageous, of course, creating it and then attracting. That's just like one example of alignment. I mean, there's, you know, with social life, it could work the opposite, but for most guys, they really just want like 3 to 5 really good friends that they can do life with and support each other and like have real connections with outside of just like drinking and getting drunk or like doing drugs. And so, you know, that would be an out of alignment thing versus going in alignment is finding the people where you don't feel like you have to drink.
Yeah. I like the approach of not thinking that it needs to be at a bar or at a club and realizing like you can meet people at other places, where that was something I adjusted months ago, where it's like, I can go to like, I should go to yoga classes. I should go to group workouts. I should go to, you know, brunches around events, because that's where you're meeting like people that have that like-mindedness. Now it sounds so obvious when you state it out loud, but at the time, if you're in that phase, you don't think anything differently. You just assume you need to go to the bars or you need to go to a club to meet people. But in reality, that doesn't have to be the place. And sometimes it's better to go to these places where alcohol isn't involved, because nobody's relying on liquor confidence, and you're forced to step into that uncomfortable position to walk up and approach yourself to somebody. I feel like that's got to be, and you do a really good job diving into the book. And I'll have this linked up for people. Like, most of the men most men are listeners to this podcast. I'd say about 70%. So I'm imagining all of them are buying this book as we're talking about it. But just to give them a little bit more taste of it, talk to me about, and you do a really good job of like kind of outlining, I think it's like the 5 golden rules of approaching. But, you know, and you mentioned it early on in the podcast and we didn't get to dive into it, but there's so many times, and I am so fucking guilty of this in my past, and I've recently gotten a lot better because of this book. I kid you not. I'm not saying that to toot your horn, but truthfully, this book has helped me. How can men stop that inner dialogue of, she's going to reject me, she's too good for me? Like, you see somebody that you're really attracted to. How can men step up to the plate and shoot the shot and be happy knowing that they at least went for it, even if it doesn't go the way they hope that it would go?
Well, I'll give like some basic things. You know, the book does cover this well, but I'll give some basic things.
Yeah, please.
And then just like some higher level things.
Please.
But the basic thing is going to be too basic, which is just starting with the approach, reducing the amount of time that it takes, lowering the time of reaction, and just having simple conversation. Like, not trying to, like, what is the goal that you're trying to have here? Is the guy trying to like say something and then all of a sudden take her home? Like that's very unlikely to happen. But just being able to say what's up to a girl, like if that's the goal, that's really achievable. And that can start happening right away. And I would encourage guys to just be more social in general in their lives. Like if I'm unsocial, like earlier today, I was at a coffee shop. I had it like right before this goal. I was with a friend. We had a breakfast burrito, chatting, being a little bit more social there. I'm talking with a friend, being social there. And then I'm talking to you here, like I've been social throughout a lot of the day. But if I'm very unsocial throughout my entire day and I see a girl, or especially if I work in a job where I work alone, I'm on a computer, especially nowadays in this world that we're in, this remote world. And then, it's been days I've spoken to someone and then I see someone, it's really difficult. I haven't been social. I haven't really been exercising that muscle. So I think just being more social in general throughout the day, lowering the time of reaction, and then just reducing the level of what you're trying to accomplish. Like just going up and saying what's up is perfectly fine.
Guys think it's got to be some catchy hook, and I'm like, it's not. That's not.
There is no great opener. There is no great opener. There really is not. Like I can give all these little things, but I really just don't want guys to think like that. Like I like to just think like, hey, I'm here and I'm on journeys. Like I'm improving as a man. Like I have a lot of value to offer. Like her meeting me is going to be really cool. There's going to be a benefit. And so my job is just to be able to communicate that value. I think that's really where guys struggle is how do I communicate the value that I do have so that she can see it and understand that like I'm a good guy to have in her life. And that's like when I think back to my I haven't approached a girl in a while. I've been in a relationship for a while, but when I do think back to this girl when I was pursuing her, I was extremely confident in that. Like I know I'm a win for you. Like if I'm sitting down with you and your family, like this is a win. Like and I think that's just where we should start as well. Like increasing the man's value and like. I'm like, I know your dad would love me. Like, that's how I think in my head. Like, your dad would have so much fun with me. Like, your parents would be upset if you are rude to me. Like, in your head, because I know, and this is, I go out with her family. We have a great time, and it's totally true. Like, I know that I have value to offer and that this is a win for her. I think when a guy, doesn't want, isn't approaching a girl that he wants to, he's putting her on a pedestal and he's assuming that this woman has a lot more value. You're coming from a needy place because you're saying like, I want her. Like she probably doesn't want me. I have to like say something clever to trick her into liking me. We should really just increase our value as men and then own that value and then share it authentically with others. And that's the gift is like, that's what you're doing when you're social. You're sharing your value. It's a value exchange. At the end of the day, it's a value exchange. And I'm not talking about like a financial value exchange where I'm like, she wants your money.
And energy.
Yeah. I'm talking energy. I'm talking personality. I'm talking your intelligence, your vibe, your experiences, what you do with your life. What are your hobbies and your passions? All that stuff is communicating value. So if we focus on that and then we just focus on sharing it, it's so much easier. Also, like, and then I think at a higher level is just really like, what is it that you want from this girl? Like, why does this girl have so much power to dictate your actions and how you feel? Because being grounded would just be like living in alignment with your thoughts or his actions. If I see an attractive girl, like like it's so effortless now, but it's not because I'm good with girls as much as it is as I'm good with being grounded. Like I'm more grounded in my actions because I do this all day. Like I'm making decisions all day that are based off like, all right, is this in alignment? Okay, go. And then you times that by a decade and it just becomes natural to do it in all aspects of your life versus just like, oh, I see a girl, but I take no action in my life. I'm super ungrounded. I'm living out of alignment. Then what am I even doing approaching this girl? So like, what is it that you want from this girl? Why does she have so much power over you? She doesn't even know you. She has no, like, she doesn't have enough evidence to make any sort of decision about you. It's like a homeless person flipping you off. It's like, this person doesn't know who you are. So like really reducing the amount that you want from this girl. Like you're here to give her value. I think in the book I say, it's like, hey, I'm giving her $100 bill. Like, is your value as a person not worth $100? Like it should be very compelling, and it should feel like I'm giving you this opportunity. I'm here, like I'm giving you this opportunity, and I'm sharing this value with you. People aren't going to reject great value, and if they do, then that's perfectly fine. There's a lot of people in this world.
Yeah, man, you're so it's I'm sitting here just listening to like the amount of you are so confident because you know your shit, and you are so confident in the way you talk about these things because you've gone down this journey, and it's just so rewarding to hear it from a perspective of like, this isn't me just like throwing things out there because I think this will work. It's purely like from your own personal experience. And like, you know, I love like the idea of like, we only know what we know. And I think when you're diving into some of these topics, because it's such an area you've been working on for so long that it probably just seems at this point like common knowledge. But I think there are so many people that will hear this and it just completely changes the frame and the perspective of the way they've viewed their life, the way they view dating, the way they've viewed their own internal confidence. Like, I think exactly what you're saying and it's part of being the grounded man, where it's like, when you understand your values, you walk through this world with your head held high, and you're kind of just pushing away anybody and anything that doesn't align with you. And I think there was a great example in the book. You talk about how you had gone to a club, and I don't remember the person's name, but like, you know, beautiful woman you're talking to, you've realized the alignment of values isn't there, and you kind of walk away and she's kind of like rattled. And I think that is so important too, is like, not only you might see somebody that's beautiful physically, but being able to understand very quickly, do they have similar values to you, can be the ultimate game changer of like either continue pursuing somebody or make that shift. And I've done that a few times recently in my life. And I before would have had like the scarcity mindset, like, but she's into me. Like, why would I want to leave this? Like, this is great. She's beautiful. But as soon as I was able to step into my power of going, this is who I am, this is what I value, this is what I want, and no disrespect, there just wasn't certain things in them that I wanted, I was able to go, not for me, move on, and then another door would open. And I think you have to understand what you're looking for too in order to be successful in any aspect of dating.
100%. And like, you can ask this question to yourself for the listeners. Like, very few men have ever walked away from an attractive woman that liked them. Like, very few men have friend zoned an attractive girl. They've always accepted her as like, oh, this girl likes me. As you're saying, like, so what you said, what you just did is very hard. But if you were to go deeper into that relationship and you were like, damn, this girl's hot, what I always hear is, but the sex is so good. Then that is like one of the, that is the trap. There's like, you're so out of alignment with this girl, but the sex is good. So you keep going, but then all of a sudden months go by, years go by, and you're in a relationship, and kids might start coming out of that. So to be able to friend zone as a man is a sign of great strength and power. It's like, oh wow, like this guy just friend zoned that girl. You know how many guys want this girl, and you were able to friend zone her? But like, even genuinely wanting a friend out of her, it's like, hey, we're not going to fit romantically, but I think we should be friends. The same way, like, we're probably like, what? How do you do that? But the same way that a girl does it to a guy, she's friend zoning because she feels that it's not a fit, and guys should be doing that too. But very few guys are willing to do that. Yeah. And I also want to highlight too that being grounded, this isn't a conversation only for a guy who's single. This is, you could even argue more so for a guy who is in a relationship or who is married. I would say half of my clients are in serious relationships and the other half are single guys. And the guys who are in the most amount of pain are usually the guys in relationships who have been living very ungrounded and have lost their power for many years in that relationship. And they're in a real struggle in their relationship to have boundaries, to get their needs met, boring sexless relationships, or just very boring, like monotonous sex. And like, that guy needs, his power and being grounded more so. I would argue in terms of like, who's in a lot of pain is the guy in a relationship. The guy who's like months away from a divorce is the guy who really needs this. But I mean, all guys, need this, and women too, being a grounded woman. But ultimately, being grounded is holding your power, living in alignment with your values and vision, and it will be hard. There will be pain. You might make mistakes. Like you could have made a mistake. That girl could have been awesome if we dove deeper, but we have to make decisions and we have to own them and stick to that path. On a longer timeline, you're going to have a much greater, more impactful life. That is what you would want to experience. It sounds so simple to just be like, hey, let's live in alignment with our values and vision. But there's a reason why we don't. You know, society, our friends, it's not the normal thing. It requires us to show up in life at a higher level rather than be a passive bystander of like experiences all around me just sort of happening and I'm just allowing them to happen versus really showing up in life and starting to play the game. Like if we're playing a video or if we're playing a game where we're the hero of the movie, it's like, are we the main character or what? Like, what is going on here? Why am I not the main character in my movie? Why am I this like offshoot guy in my own book? And why am I more focused on other people's movies versus my own? Because everyone's life can change really pretty quick as soon as you start. Like the cool thing about being grounded is you can do this right after this call. Like this doesn't require like surfing might take some time. Like you're not going to get up. That's going to take some time. But right now, like you could be like, hey, you can start. Excuse me. If you're someone who doesn't work out often and you eat poorly, like you could decide to sign up for a gym right after this. That would be more in alignment. Like if you're someone who, doesn't show up in their relationships, like you could start showing up more. If you're someone who is always walking by people and you want to work on your social life, you could start being a little bit more social today. And we want to just draw it down to progress. That's this switch here from going from like, I need the specific outcome to happen. Otherwise, I'm a failure. Otherwise, I'm not good. That is going to really make the journey a lot harder, and it's probably going to make it a lot longer because we're so hard on ourselves. Like we're not allowing ourselves to have wins. And so I try and focus less on outcomes and focus more on, am I progressing? And there's a huge like if we're in a chamber of like gas, like there's a huge chamber and release of pressure when we're like, what? Like just progress? Because you can progress today. You can start choosing actions that are in alignment today. And right now, if that is your version of success, then you're winning. And you can choose to win every single day because you can progress every day. And now life just becomes a lot more like in a state of flow, or I call it like grounded man nirvana. Like we have effortless ability to live in alignment with our actions or our values and take the right actions. That for me has allowed so much release and pressure. It reduces comparison. I mean, you're in LA, like there's high level comparison. There's a lot of players, a lot of success. Like that's, perhaps one of the largest, places where I think
place is unbelievable, dude. Yeah, unbelievable. Everywhere you look, it's beautiful people with lots of money, success.
You don't know like what's real, what's fraud. Like there's so much going on out there. San Diego's similar, but not as much as LA. That's for sure. Even though it's geographically close. But if we focus on progress, you're winning, and that pressure of comparison, which for any like alpha guy, comparison in his ego, probably where he's going to experience a lot of self-punishment. And it can really reduce his ability to enjoy life, reduce his ability to show up socially, reduce his aliveness in life for himself and for others, relationships, family, and what have you.
Yeah, I'm very thankful that I don't know if it was just the years of experience of going internal, but like I do not fall victim for that comparison of like, they have a better car than me, they have a bigger house than me, they have more money than me. They have, like, I would feel just as confident wearing $20 pairs of sweatpants with a basic white t-shirt going out for the night as would the person next to me wearing all Gucci, the $1,000 outfit with $1,500 bracelets. Like, I'm very fortunate that I've been able to like find that internal confidence that I don't need things to make me feel good. I am like, I know who I am. And I think that's just like, that's the world we live in, where people think that they need to buy things to build that internal confidence. In reality, that's just not the right approach to it.
That's an amazing power and journey you've likely been on, because that journey is so free.
Great way to look at it.
On. And that is just a huge a huge win for guys to be able to really own that and live that way, because the comparison can really drive you out of alignment. It can make you go in different directions. It can really mess with your ability to take the right actions because you're trying to now meet other people's expectations or go in different directions that are not, what you want out of your life. And so I was just watching this video of this kid. It's just an example that I thought of, but he was like, he got a master's in accounting and he worked for this big accounting firm. It's like one of the best, accounting firms in the country. And all he wanted to do was make videos. Like he was just like a film nut. He just loves film. He'd been playing with camera since he was like a kid. And for him to be able to quit and take a significant pay cut and just do film full time, you could see and feel the aliveness that it brought him, like just in the way he was talking about doing that and how he's made that jump and he's been able to make enough money to live, not the same amount, but what I'm after is seeing a guy who's on a journey that's authentic and who's alive. Like that is so cool to meet that person who's like doing his thing and he's like happy to do it. And he's showing up and he's like, this is happening. I'm here. Oh, I'm going through this challenge. Like, what do I do? Like that's like life. And that's aliveness. And when we are living when we're living inauthentically or out of alignment, we tend to be this like very dumbed down version of ourselves. We feel less like ourselves because we're living out of alignment. So why would we be ourselves? That's attraction to me. Like a guy on journeys that are authentic, like that's going to be a great deal of value. If that's what the man is after, is like, hey, I want to be a higher value man who is attractive. Like, okay, well, let's look at your life. Like, you were saying like, I'm not into these basically materialism. 100%. I agree. But that's what guys are going after. It's like they're going after materialism to be attractive. When if you want real attraction with real people, then you got to be real yourself.
Got to be fucking really real for people to stand out from the crowd. And I think people can definitely notice that when somebody's walking with their purpose and their passion head held high versus kind of just floating through life and kind of unsure of what that path might be. Some of the worst dating advice that I've come across that you've talked about is just be yourself, quote unquote, and women just want a nice guy, which we've kind of talked about before. How are these advices misleading?
Well, I think when we say just be yourself, if we're saying, hey, like if being yourself is living in alignment to your values, then I think there could be value there. But if the guy in his current state is not living in alignment with his values, then it may not have any value to that guy. Perhaps he does need to take some actions that are in alignment for him to then become himself. But I think that advice is just cliche. I think it's easy to say, but like, and a lot of times that advice, comes from women. Like I don't hear guys really saying like, yo, just be yourself. Like, cause guys understand. It's like, well, being myself is not really working. Like I've been being myself for like 30 years. And I'm still like not crushing with women, but a lot of times you just hear it from women. They're not, unless the woman's really like he really understands what she's talking about when it comes to relationships. I find that, sometimes advice from women is like she's giving advice that she would just want to give the guy who hurt her. And so it's like, hey, just be nice, just be yourself. And she's trying to like create a version of a guy that she wished like her ex, like take all the bad things her ex did and then reverse it. And then that's her advice. When in fact, that's in many cases not why she was with that guy. She was with that guy probably because he was higher value, because he was confident, because he has masculine energy. There's things that she may not have been able to read. So I think being yourself, if that can be interpreted as to live in alignment with your values, I think that would make sense. That's what I've been saying this whole time. But if it just means do nothing, like, hey, like just be yourself means I don't have to try and, do anything more. I think that could lead a guy to not see any more results.
Boom. That's the thing right there. And that's what I wanted to spotlight on is I think when we hear just be yourself, it's right? You need to be your most authentic self to attract the right people into your life. But still, like anything, there's going to be no progress without action. And I've been guilty of it too before, where I was like, I'm just going to do me. I'm going to focus on myself. And when the world's ready, it's going to present me the right person. That's not how it works. You still need to put in the effort. You still need to put yourself into these environments where you can meet people. And then, as we've dove into today, like, have the ability to go up, introduce yourself, have a conversation, and kind of see where it goes from there. But once again, there is no progress without effort, and you still have to be willing to show up and actually put your best foot forward to see if there is any attraction there. And I think you do a really good job too in the book of talking about just the art of, I don't want to say hooking them, but grabbing them, but like, it's kind of a playful dance of like, you know who you are, you know what you stand for, showing them subtle cues that like you're interested in them, whether it's a light touch or a light like gesture or a light comment, but it's that witty playfulness of like enjoying life and enjoying the dance, but also like knowing who you are at the end of the day, which I think you do a really good job highlighting in the book.
100%. I think it is a dance. I think it's supposed to be fun. And if we do not learn that skill, we basically will always be living in kind of like that boring layer of conversation where it's just like 21 questions. And like, how do we not do that? That's not even exciting for a guy. Like if a guy's just asking me 21 questions, like how can I, it's aliveness, like being alive, having fun, enjoying this life, wanting to share that and having humor, being real. And I usually want to include some sort of sexual tone to it if I'm attracted to the girl. And then lead the way. The way into a greater adventure. Like, I just think like, how can I make this, if it's at night, how can I make this night just more epic? Like, how can I make this thing super fun? And that's what I'm focused on. And, you know, not so much like what is she thinking of me? How like reduce the pressure of what this girl is thinking, like get that out and focus on just sharing value and having good energy and good vibes with the girl. Like, you could think like a theme could be like something like, this is like, how can I make this epic? Like, this is going to be awesome. Something amazing is going to happen. Like just these positive vibes where something good here is going to happen. Yeah. And like, I think for a woman to experience a man in his full power, like that alone is enough. And it's not as hard as I think a lot of guys make it out to be. Like, I do see some of these other courses and stuff, and it's so much that it's like a lot of that I feel is to cover up the man rather than just like you're likely just like need to improve by 15%. Like I don't think that many guys need a complete 3,000% improvement to go talk to a girl. You likely just need to go say what's up and be like 15% better than the other guy. It isn't so far out of reach. A lot of times guys just aren't being social. Like if a guy's not social, he will likely have a harder time. If a guy isn't social, if a guy has no friends, you know, that reveals a lot right there. Like if a guy is in that place right now where he's like, hey, I don't have social life, I pretty much just work and go to the gym and watch Netflix and, you know, maybe spend time with family, which is all good things. But if there aren't other men in that guy's life, that could be a good place to start, because you can be all the things that I'm saying here of being more alive, sharing, you know, your authentic self. All of that stuff can be done with men, and there's a lot less risk at play. And guys need to experience positive references of like, hey, this went well. Like, oh wow, like me putting myself out there more went well. Like, oh, this went well. And that can really start to build, because you're on the journey, that can really start to build the skill rather than like you're immediately facing like this, you know, in the video game, you're like going after the boss right when you start. Like you might have to build up to it and just have fun with it. And like, I think having friends, and like I emphasize that this is the updated version of the book. And in the update, I emphasized a great deal on social life and its importance on a man. And I'm not at all talking about like a fraternity and having 100 friends or 200 friends. I'm talking 3 to 5 guys that are like-minded men who are going on journeys and who you can support and who can support you through different aspects of life. or professional life, relationships, those kind of things. It really builds your sense of like your identity. It helps you feel more like your social abilities are going to have positive effect. And so when you're going out and you have a group or you've been social with other people prior, it's so much easier when you're already in a group. Like if I'm with a group of 3 really cool guys or just fun guys or guys who are growing and I go out, that's a lot different than if I'm going out solo trying to meet women. Can I do it? Yeah, I've done it. When I travel, I'm solo. When I was single, I would go out and yes, you can do it. But like at a base level, it's really helpful to have good men in your life. It's a good place to start for most guys.
Yeah, you want to have those community around you because it makes life more interesting and it relieves the pressure of feeling the need to meet people, and you can just enjoy yourself and trust the flow of life and not be so intense about this needs to happen because I'm out by myself. I need to meet people. I need this to happen. It's like when you're at ease and you're just in that flow and that ability to just be present, I think it just ripples and people can feel that energy in you, definitely. And I just want to emphasize the mindset, right? This is going to be amazing. This is going to be a good time. Like going in with that perspective and that mindset radiates in it. People can feel that versus somebody that you can tell isn't really vibing or like is forcing it. Like, I think that's a really important takeaway is like mindset is everything. And if you want something to have a good outcome, you have to go in with like trusting and believing, like becoming your biggest hype man and telling yourself it's going to be good. This is going to be great. We're going to have the best night. And even if things don't shake out that well, at least you went in with it with the right mindset. And I think people can feel that.
You likely will. When I'm in that phase, like you're likely to have a good time because you're likely to, if you're thinking that way, you're likely to take those actions. But one point on the social life is, one thing that was really huge for me was really not trying to compete with my friends and trying to like one up my friends. That really, I had lived in that frame and that mindset for probably most of my life. And I thought that was the goal, was to sort of be at the top of the hierarchy. And the way you do that is by competing or putting down your friends and one upping your friends. When that's really no way to build a social life. That's how you push people away from you. And that's how you turn your friends into competitors. When you guys should be allies. You guys should be allies. Like you can think of it like allies in war. Like you're trying to support each other to win the war. You're trying, like whoever has the greatest allies is typically gonna win the war. Like if you like World War II, World War I, whoever had stronger allies won. And so your goal as a man is building good allies in your life for different aspects of life. Not all my friends are the same. Some of them are really good with women, whereas they're not that great with money. Whereas I have some friends that are really amazing at making money and being successful and those traits, and others, and they may not be that great at health. I have some friends that are really into, really living well and having an adventurous life, and they're in martial arts and they surf and all these things. And that's really cool, like a well-rounded group of men. But when I like, that was honestly one of the biggest things that helped me the most, was switching from I'm here to create allies. I'm here to be like a cheerleader and supporter of my friend. And the language I would use would be so much better, rather than they say something and I try and challenge them or put them down, or I try and talk about how what I'm doing is better and bigger, and it's like, oh, what about me? And I just switch it back to like, okay, like this is my friend. Like, what am I doing competing with him? And it's more like, dude, hell yeah for you. Like, you've been working on this so hard. You finally did it. That's amazing. Like, and I'm more like lifting him up. Like, how can I help? Versus me caring so much about how can I be better than my own friend. And then even when you go out, like you're talking to girls or something, and then like you're competing against your friends, rather than just being like, this is my friend, he's freaking awesome, you need to talk to this guy, this guy's done this and this, like, where are your friends? We all need to meet this guy. Like, and that vibe for your friend is like he's like, dude, thanks, like that's so awesome, versus me trying to like steal the girl from him and be like, yeah, like I'm better than you. And that has allowed me to build much deeper friendships and create less conflict within my social life, where we are allies. We're like, if one of us is going through struggle, like we're there, like we're going to help each other. Same way if a country, gets attacked in war, like the other countries, I mean, kind of like right now with Ukraine and stuff, but
gnarly.
Then the allies step in, right? The allies support each other. versus imagine if the allies were all just fighting against each other. Like, they're going to lose. They're not going to do well. I just studied history in college, so get my money's worth by sharing right now. But I can't stress how important that was in helping me build real friendships versus competitive friendships.
Yeah, it's a great perspective to have. Build genuine friendships. It doesn't need to be I'm better than everyone else. Just build together, rise together. And I think it ripples into dating and then everything else that you're going for in your life. We're going to get into the final 5. These are the last 5 questions. We try to keep them to 1-sentence answers. If you got to go a little bit over, no problem. But the final 5. First question for you. How can people learn to give themselves permission to follow their interests and ideas?
I think what prevents this first is how I would approach it is like the fear of failure and fear of looking bad, fear of this not working out, fear of failing in front of others. And I would just focus on progress over perfection and taking that first step and acknowledging like, hey, progress is all I'm after here. And I'm trying to lean in this direction. I am taking steps, which means I'm progressing. Therefore, I am successful, which is going to encourage you to continue and continue and continue. And then once you get to after a while, you're going to build momentum to the point where you don't have to really put so much effort into like this thing that you want to do. It's just going to be more of a natural thing. For a lot of people, going to the gym is a very natural thing. But for other people, it's like going to war. Like, some people can't, and like it's just so hard for them. They don't go, even though they have all these memberships. So I think that could be an analogy for a lot of people to understand. It becomes effortless after a certain point.
Yeah, so good. Question number 2. If you could go back to any point in your life and tell yourself one piece of advice, what would you tell yourself and when?
I mean, obviously that's a big question here. There's so much. Let me think for a sec. I feel that
anything that's top of mind, it doesn't have to be the greatest piece of advice, but maybe something that we talked about today that immediately reminds you of maybe something you've been dealing with personally in the last week or two. Any piece of advice?
I would say, I mean, I think the first thing would be like, focus on progress over the outcome. I think that's a huge like thing that really allowed me to start almost anything and see success. I also think like changing your perspective of your perspective really matters, and it dictates how you're going to view the world. You could have 2 things happen to the same person, and one person can view this as a calamity and as a trauma, and the other person can view this as an opportunity for growth, as an opportunity to be challenged, as it's a part of the journey. I think I would really challenge myself to look at the perspectives, because there was a lot of things that I went through, whether it was a breakup, whether it was a health crisis, whether it was when I lost my father, where there was a significant amount of trauma where my perspective was really creating the trauma more so than the event itself. And so I think having greater control over my perspective of challenges or of hardships and trauma can reduce a significant amount of pain.
Yeah, it's beautifully said, my friend. Question number 3. What's an area of your life you need to put more effort into?
Probably... I was going to lead, like my gut reaction was going to be like productivity in terms of like, I'm not a 5 a.m. guy. I'm not a 6 a.m. guy. I'm not a 7 a.m. guy. I'm more like an 8:30 a.m. guy. And I've just kind of owned that, but like all my friends, maybe that's comparison, but my friends are early guys. Like they're even texting me early in the morning. I'm like, how can you do that? Like I just remember like when I had the job, when I was in college, like I always told myself like, man, I can't wait till one day, like I'm going to build something and I'm just going to be able to wake up when I want and start the day. And like, that was just something I always told myself when I was waking up early, for school or for work. And I just like not having an alarm clock, but I think there's like such an opportunity with what I'm doing that maybe I could be waking up earlier and being more productive, but I feel like I get everything done. I feel like I'm not like at the end of the day, like, oh, I didn't get everything done. So I guess I don't know, but maybe there's something there, but that's an area where I feel like maybe I should be waking up earlier. I would say that. And then this last year would be, there was just a high level of social drink. Like my girlfriend, she's super hot and her friends are all super hot. And like we go out and we just have a really fun time. But I think I felt myself drinking a bit more than I normally drink, just in the excitement and fun of being with like 6 or 8 girls.
Yeah.
And being like the only guy.
It's hard to say no to that.
It's hard to say no to that. I'm like, I'll be talking to my friends. I'm like, am I in alignment right now? Like, is this alignment? Because like I'm having a ton of fun and I'm with my girl and we're like meeting new people and like, yeah. So I would say those 2 things, possibly productivity, waking up earlier, and which I already have, cut back on the social drinking for this new year. But I remember last year, it was more than I normally social drink.
Yeah, just being aware of it is sometimes the hardest step. And I will sidebar and say with the early morning stuff, to me, it's not about what time you wake up. I think it's just about, it's all relative. So if you go to bed at midnight and you wake up at 8 a.m., that's 8 hours. If you went to bed at 9 p.m. and you woke up at 5 a.m., that's 8 hours of sleep. So what works for you is working for you. So I would just keep that in mind I'm always for it. If you want to make tweaks, make the tweaks, but also don't feel that you need to be getting up at a certain time if you find what you're doing is working for you. 4th question for you. First step anyone can take to reaching their inner potential.
I think spending some time, or I think even spending a day, like giving yourself like a personal retreat where you just go to like a cool place that you think, like a cabin, or like if you like to go to the desert, or if you like to go to a private beach or something, but like taking some time for yourself to ask, and just bringing a journal and a pen and no cell phone, and just being like, what do I want? And really owning that. Like that's such a simple question, but it can really provide so much clarity into yourself, your values, your vision, where you want to go in the future. It is very easy in this world to get derailed off of who you are. I talk so much about alignment and being grounded to your values. So even myself, like I have, you can't see it, but I have a drawer, and it's just like, I like to write. Like I can't do it all in like a Google Doc. Like I like to write out vision and values and, and questions. I have so many of these journals. Like I save them. I have like a pile of journals. If anyone saw it, they'd think I'm like a madman. They'd be like, what is going on in this guy's mind? But like, that is so helpful to get this stuff out and to then turn it into an action plan, of course. So I think giving yourself a personal retreat and just an exercise with just one question, it's just, what do I want? And then, from there, let the person take it where they want, whether that's going to go towards career or relationships, but like that is a very grounded action to take. And then of course we need to turn that what you journal, we need to then live it. And that's the first step, right? You didn't say like the first step would be like, let's get some clarity. The second step, we need to now start leaning into making progress on what we wrote down, even if it's at a small level. But I find that like there's a really cool park not too far from me. It's on a hill and it overlooks the city, and it's like kind of a hidden park. And I go there. I used to go there all the time, but I would say probably like quarterly I'll go there, and I bring the journal and I bring some coffee, and I just have like a me day where I'll spend like 4 hours just hanging out. Maybe I'll bring some cool philosophy books and like just to kind of spin the wheel around like questioning direction and meaning, and then just journal and focus on what do I want. And those have been some of the most, like those have always been very helpful in correcting my path. Like even myself, the guy who's wearing the t-shirt of Stay Grounded, and like my course, for my clients is Project Grounded Man. So I'm like, people might view me as like the best at it. And why I feel that I'm effective at it is because I'm doing the work, and it's not a set it and forget it thing. It's like, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, you got to do more practice than everyone else. Talent's only going to take you so far. How much I know or what experiences I've had will only take me so far. Like I need to also do the work. So I'd recommend, that as an action item for everyone who's listening to this, and you would find that there would be significant value. Imagine doing that for the next decade. Like, this isn't a set it and forget it thing. Like, imagine how much more aligned you would live throughout that decade, or, you know, decades at a, you know, that would be even greater versus having not done this, versus not hearing this conversation, and versus just like sort of doing what you're currently doing in a monotonous sort of Groundhog Day. So that would be the one thing to get started.
It's great. Get clear. It's very important to then be able to put action behind where the direction you're actually going. Fifth and final question. Somebody listened to the last 70-ish minutes of this podcast. As they wrap up listening to this podcast, what is one challenge you have for the listener today after they finish listening to the podcast?
Well, damn, I thought I just gave them a challenge.
I think that's the challenge. I didn't want to lead with it, but I think that can easily be integrated as the challenges. Get clear on exactly what you want.
Challenge. Let me see. Like, if I think the challenge then, so that, let's just say that would be like the action item to get started would be to do that. And then the challenge would be to put what you just did into action, and then start taking action on that, because that would be fully, like, we're talking about alignment, we're talking about being grounded. That would start, you know, putting you on a path, and then just focusing on progress, not outcomes. Not like, of course we have a direction, of course I'm aiming for this target, but like, the journey is so big that I can't, like, if I'm always focused on the outcome, then I'm focused on where I'm not. But if I focus on progress, then I'm focused like in the now, because progress is happening like right now. Like, right now you're building your podcast. Like, this is progress, right? Yeah. Versus if you're like saying like, oh, I'm not going to be happy until I get $100 million contract from Spotify, like Joe Rogan. Then like every day, like, you're going to be living in failure and living in a place where you're not, which, like, whenever you put out like goals like that are so far in the future, I think it's cool to have that in hindsight. But like, if that's how you're living, then you're making a contract with yourself that says like, hey, I'm not going to be happy until I achieve this thing. And the problem with that is, if your goal is super audacious, like, you might not achieve it. And therefore you might live your whole life, or a lot of your life, you know, very unhappy, versus just like focusing on progress. You're like, boom, I'm doing it. And like, what more could you ask for? You're progressing. Like, you know, the journey's tough, and like, you got to keep that vibe. You got to keep that energy moving, and you got to reward yourself for like the wins you're having to like keep that engine going. Like, it's like a train, and like, we got to keep putting oil in it. We got to keep moving forward, because if we're just focused on the end, like, it's so far away that you won't ever make it. You won't ever make it to it. There's a quote like that goes really well with this. Kobe Bryant, fortunately, this passed away. Obviously, the whole world basically ended after he passed away. Like, so many bad things happened. But one of his last speeches that he gave, I believe, when they retired his jersey, like at Staples Center, which is now crypto.com. Yeah, Crypto Arena, which is like where we're at in society. But anyways, he's like, all the blood, all the sweat, all the tears, all the waking up early, all the practice. He's like, if you can understand that journey right there was where the success is found, then you can understand how I got here. Wow. Because he's like, you may not ever, or he just says it straight up. He's like, you're probably not going to achieve your goals, but in the journey, you continue down this path and you continue showing up, you're going to achieve so much more. And it was just so, like, that was probably like one of the coolest pieces. Unfortunately, he even dies to like make it more epic. And it's like, oh my gosh, like I've been trying to say this message too. And then like he came out and said that, and I was like, that is just confirmation right there, man. Focus on the journey and progress over outcomes, and you will go so far. Yeah, that's a mic drop moment right there. Andrew, this has been such an honor to chat with you, man. Like, as I kind of introed before we even got into the podcast, like, to stumble on your book, start reading it, and just get so much value and immediately go, this is somebody I need to talk to and have on this podcast, and to be able to carve out time today to chat with you, man, has been an honor. I'll have it linked up in the description below. For any of the men out there, you definitely need to check out this book and check out some of his other books, which will be linked up below. But thank you for
at that time when you were kind of going down this path, you did not know where this would go, but like your ability to build that inner confidence to take that step forward and then to continue taking those steps forward allowed you not only to find progress within your own life, but then you've been able to then ripple that and pass it on to the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of men that you've been able to impact through the book, through the podcast, through podcasts that you've been on. Like it really is valuable, man. And like I said, I wasn't joking that like literally started reading this and I felt like a mindset shift in the last 2 weekends. And I felt the difference as who I was. I almost feel like I am already a very confident person. I know who I am. But I think this book has given me permission to fully be who I am and to stand tall and to keep my head held high. And so I just want to thank you for taking the time to share today. And I think there's a lot of wisdom on this episode that people are going to enjoy. And I'm sure many of them are going to end up going and reading the book. But please just keep sharing your message, man. And I really appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me here. This is a cool... You got a good thing going here. And I love seeing a guy who's hungry, who's getting after it and looking to, like, I can see behind you, like you got a stack of books there. Like that was the first thing I noticed when you turned on your video. I was like, oh man, like I could just tell that you're hungry. You're on this journey, you're growing and you're seeking and you're sharing. So there's so much good vibes here. So all the listeners here, like you keep listening to this guy's podcast. Like he's definitely doing some good stuff here and he's going far. So thank you so much for having me on as a guest.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate the words. That really means a lot. And I know you were a big book reader when you were first getting started. So
can you see, I have a whole wall there, but you can't see it in the corner there.
A little,
it goes it goes from the floor all the way up.
I can see, I can kind of see it a little bit. I think it's like a black bookcase, right? That's legendary. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this specific episode today, please screenshot this episode on whatever platform you're listening in on, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Overcast, whatever platform you're listening in on. Post it to your IG story. I want you to tag Andrew. He's at Andrew Ferebee. That's ANDREWFEREBEE. Tag me at Bobbbaaaay. That's B-O, 3 B's, 4 A's, and Y. Share this podcast in your IG story. Let us know what was the biggest takeaway. How did this specific episode change your perspective? We dove into a lot of different topics within dating, building inner confidence that I've never really discussed with a guest as in depth as I did today with Andrew. So please, please, please let us know what you enjoyed. Also linked up below, as I said before, I will have all 3 of his books, The Dating Playbook for Men, The Breakup Manual for Men, and The Porn Pandemic. Linked up below, as well as his website, knowledgeformen.com. Is there anywhere else I should be sending listeners after this episode?
Those are good places. If anyone's interested in working with myself or my team, it's kfmcoach.com. So kfmcoach.com. It's just a page and it shows like, hey, this is what I do with clients. And you can get on a phone and talk with us if it's something you want to learn more about. But that is all. Great. This was awesome. And everyone should give this guy a positive review on whatever, probably on iTunes or Spotify, because that's really what's going to drive more engagement for his show here. So really good stuff. Keep it up. I know how many have you done?
Man, this is my second show. I did one show for about not like I do 2 at the same time. I did one show for about 3.5 years, and this show I've been doing for about 2 years now. So
okay, got it.
We've done probably about 350 podcasts at this point.
Well, you said second show, so I was like, this is your second episode? I was like, bro, like you got some experience, dude. Like this sounds good. For your second show, you're opening up the show with like what I need to do and stuff. So like, your questions are solid. Keep it up, man.
Appreciate you, Andrew. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Bearded Man Podcast. See ya.